A teenage girl in a vibrant yellow dress handed her last $40 to a stone-faced billionaire at a gas station, never imagining it would change both their lives forever. As she walked away, the man who hadn't spoken a word to her memorized her license plate, his cold eyes hiding decades of buried pain. The next morning, the thunder of dozens of motorcycle engines shook her tiny apartment building as leather-clad figures surrounded her door. Have you ever wondered how a single moment of kindness might ripple through your life in ways you never expected? What would you do if your smallest good deed came back to you 100-fold, or if it put you in danger? Join me on this journey where perception meets reality, where judgment collides with truth, and discover how one young woman's compassion awakens something powerful in the most unexpected places. It all began on a sweltering Tuesday afternoon when Amara Johnson's car sputtered into the last functioning gas station on the edge of town. Before we dive deeper into this incredible story, hit that like button if you've ever helped a stranger without expecting anything in return. Drop a comment below sharing where you're watching from. I love connecting with all of you. Now let's get back to Amara's life-changing moment. Amara Johnson clutched the eviction notice in her hand. The paper crumpled from being read over and over. 3 days. That's all she had left before she and her grandmother would be homeless. "We'll figure something out," she whispered to herself, tucking the notice into her purse where her grandmother wouldn't find it. The ancient wall clock ticked loudly in their small apartment. Each second seemed to mock her empty bank account. Her last paycheck had gone straight to her grandmother's heart medication. $17.23. That's what remained to her name, plus whatever loose change she could find in the couch cushions. Amara's phone buzzed with a text from the hospital. Reminder, payment due for Dorothy Johnson's treatment. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and grabbed her car keys. The temp agency had promised to call about that receptionist position today. All she needed was gas money to get there. "I'm heading out, Nana," she called, putting on a bright smile as she peeked into her grandmother's room. The old woman nodded drowsily, her medication making her tired. Outside, the summer heat hit Amara like a wall. Her yellow dress, the one her grandmother had sewn for her high school graduation, stuck to her back within seconds. It was her lucky dress, the one she wore to every job interview. Today, she needed all the luck she could get. Her '98 Honda protested when she turned the key, coughing to life with a rattle that hadn't been there yesterday. The gas light had been on for 2 days. "Just get me to the station," she whispered, patting the dashboard. "That's all I ask." The car shuddered as she pulled into traffic. 3 blocks later, the engine sputtered. Warning lights flashed across the dashboard. No, not now. Amara managed to coast into the parking lot of Mercy Hospital, the same place that kept sending her bills she couldn't pay. The irony wasn't lost on her as the car died completely. She counted the money in her wallet again, $23 plus the loose change. After searching through every compartment in the car, she found another 20 tucked in her glove box. Emergency money she'd forgotten about. $43.17. Not enough for car repairs, barely enough for gas, and maybe some ramen for the week. As she walked toward the gas station 2 blocks away, the weight of her situation pressed down on her shoulders. But Amara stood tall. Her grandmother had raised her to face troubles with her head high. "Just need enough gas to get to that interview," she told herself, clutching her lucky yellow dress. "Everything else will work out somehow." She didn't know that somehow was about to arrive in the most unexpected way imaginable. The fluorescent sign of Jimmy's Gas and Go flickered as Amara approached. The place had seen better days: cracked concrete, faded price signs, a single sad plant wilting by the entrance. But it was the closest station to her broken-down car. Counting her money one more time, Amara pushed through the door. The bell jingled, and the cashier, a teenager not much younger than her, barely looked up from his phone. "40 on pump 3, please," she said, sliding 2 20s across the counter. The boy nodded, still focused on his screen. "Pump 3's got someone at it." "4's open." Amara stepped back outside, the heat immediately wrapping around her again. She headed toward pump 4 when she noticed a man at pump 3. He stood beside a gleaming black luxury car that looked wildly out of place at Jimmy's. His perfectly tailored suit probably cost more than a rent. White haircut with military precision framed a face that looked carved from granite. But what caught Amara's attention was his expression, blank, cold, almost lifeless as he stared at the card reader. The machine beeped, rejecting his card for the third time. His jaw tightened, the only sign of emotion on his otherwise frozen face. "Come on," he muttered, swiping again. Amara hesitated. She should mind her own business. That $40 was all she had. But something about the man's frustration struck her. Even the rich had problems, apparently. "Card readers here are tricky," she said, approaching cautiously. "Sometimes they only take cash." The man turned slowly, his pale blue eyes scanning her like a computer processing data. He didn't smile or thank her for the information. "I don't carry cash," he stated flatly. Of course he didn't. Men like him probably hadn't touched actual money in years. Amara should have nodded and walked away. She should have protected her last $40. Instead, she heard herself say, "I can pay for your gas." The words hung in the air between them. The man's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or suspicion. "Why would you do that?" His voice was deep, each word precisely measured. Amara shrugged. "Seems like you need gas. I have cash." She didn't mention it was literally all the cash she had. For a long moment, he stared at her, as if trying to decode some hidden agenda. Then he gave a single nod. "Very well." Amara walked back inside, her heart pounding. What was she doing? She handed the cashier her $40. For pump 3 instead. The teenager raised an eyebrow, but processed the payment without comment. When she returned, the man was watching her, his gaze calculating. His eyes dropped to her bright yellow dress, then back to her face. "Your name?" he asked abruptly. "Amara. Amara Johnson." He didn't offer his in return. Instead, he took a mental note of her license plate as she retrieved a gas can from her trunk. "The car's not here," she explained. "It broke down a couple blocks back." Still nothing from him. No thanks, no offer to help, not even a nod of acknowledgement. He simply filled his tank with her $40, his back rigid, his movements efficient. As he finished, Amara cleared her throat. "Well, have a good day." The man paused, one hand on his car door. For a split second, something human flashed across his face. Confusion, perhaps, or long-forgotten courtesy. "Why would you do this?" he asked again. Amara thought about her grandmother's words. "Kindness costs nothing, but means everything. Because everyone needs help sometimes," she replied. "Even you, I guess." He stared at her for another long moment before sliding into his car without another word. The engine purred to life, and he drove away, leaving Amara standing there with an empty wallet and an empty gas can. The cashier watched through the window, shaking his head. "You know who that was, right?" "No idea." "Richard Whitaker, the Ice King himself. Owns half the city and doesn't care about the other half." The boy let out a low whistle. "And you just gave him your last dollars, didn't you?" Amara's stomach sank. "He'll never miss that $40. But I sure will." Amara trudged back toward her broken-down car, the empty gas can swinging at her side. The weight of what she'd done pressed down harder with each step. $40 gone, to a billionaire who couldn't even say thank you. "Stupid, stupid, stupid," she muttered to herself. A black car cruised slowly past her, its tinted windows reflecting the afternoon sun. It drove another half block before making a U-turn. Amara quickened her pace, suddenly aware of how alone she was on this stretch of road. The car pulled alongside her, keeping pace with her walking. Amara's heart hammered at her chest. She clutched her phone, ready to dial 911. The passenger window rolled down smoothly. A woman with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes peered out. "Miss Johnson?" Amara stopped, surprised. "Yes. Mr. Whitaker would like to speak with you." So the Ice King had a name, and apparently, he had sent his people after her. Amara hesitated, weighing her options. "It's important," the woman added, her tone making it clear this wasn't really a request. Reluctantly, Amara climbed into the back seat. The car's interior smelled of leather and money. The woman didn't speak again as they drove, leaving Amara to her thoughts. Her mind drifted to her grandmother, to the lessons that had shaped her life. Dorothy Johnson had raised Amara after her parents died in a car crash when she was just 8. With nothing but a nurse's salary and an unshakable belief in human goodness, Nana had given Amara everything she needed. "The world will take plenty from you," Nana always said. "So give freely what you can, your kindness, your time, your help. That's the only way to stay ahead." Amara wondered what Nana would think about her giving their last $40 to one of the richest men in the city. Probably that it was foolish, but right. The car turned onto increasingly wealthy streets. Houses grew larger, yards more manicured. Finally, they pulled up to a gate that opened automatically. Beyond it stretched a driveway longer than Amara's entire street. The mansion at the end didn't look like a home. It looked like a fortress, all angles and glass and stone, beautiful but cold, just like its owner. "Wait here," the woman instructed as they stopped at the front entrance. Alone in the car, Amara noticed a newspaper on the seat beside her. Richard Whitaker's face stared back from the business section. The headline read, "Whitaker Industries acquires hospital chain, cost-cutting measures promised." Mercy Hospital, where her grandmother got treatment, where they couldn't afford the bills, where her car had broken down. It was one of Whitaker's now. The pieces clicked together in her mind. This wasn't about her act of kindness. This was about her car breaking down near his new property. He probably thought she was a reporter or activist or something. The car door opened suddenly. "Mr. Whitaker will see you now." As Amara stepped out, she noticed another vehicle pulling into the vast garage, a motorcycle, sleek and powerful. The rider, dressed head to toe in black leather, removed his helmet and nodded at her. A strange symbol was patched onto his jacket, some kind of diamond shape. "This way, Miss Johnson," the woman prompted. Amara followed, suddenly very aware of her wrinkled yellow dress and scuffed shoes. Whatever was about to happen, she had a feeling her life was about to change, for better or worse remained to be seen. Richard Whitaker stood at the wall of windows in his home office, watching the city sprawl before him like a kingdom. From this height, the problems below seemed distant. Neat little boxes he could solve with money or ignore with indifference. "Miss Johnson is here, sir," his assistant announced. He didn't turn immediately. "Let her wait. Let her take in this room with its expensive art and rare books." None of which he actually enjoyed, but all of which announced his status to visitors. When he finally faced her, Richard was struck again by the yellow dress. Bright, optimistic, out of place in his monochrome world. The girl stood straight, chin raised slightly. Not intimidated. "Interesting. You paid for my gas," he stated flatly. "Yes." "What?" Amara shifted her weight, but maintained eye contact. "I told you already. You needed help, and now you need money." It wasn't a question. Her eyes flashed. "I didn't come here asking for anything." "You were brought here," he corrected, "and everyone wants something." Richard moved to his desk, pressing a button that revealed a hidden panel. Inside sat a row of monitors displaying security footage. With practiced efficiency, he pulled up video from the gas station. "You arrived on foot. Your car broke down. You gave away your last $40. He recited these facts without emotion, like reading a weather report. "What?" Amara crossed her arms. "How do you know it was my last money?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Your face when you handed it over. The way you counted it twice. The empty bank app you checked afterward." He gestured to the monitors. "I see everything, Miss Johnson." Richard turned to the window again, remembering another woman in yellow long ago. His wife, Caroline, before the accident, before everything changed. 30 years ago, I was broke. Car trouble. A stranger helped me. The words came out stiff, unpracticed. He rarely spoke of his past. I never forgot it. He didn't mention how that kindness had hardened into something else over the years. A belief that debts must always be paid, that nothing in this world came free. The stranger who'd helped him had wanted something eventually. Everyone did. Your grandmother needs medical care, he continued. You need rent money. Your car requires repairs. Amara's shock was visible. How do you? I own Mercy Hospital now. I checked your records. He waved away her outrage. Purely business. Richard returned to his desk, pressing another button. A door opened, and a man entered. The motorcycle rider Amara had seen earlier. Tall, muscular, covered in tattoos, with a face that had seen too many fights. "This is Marcus," Richard said, "head of security for some of my less public ventures." Marcus nodded at Amara, his expression unreadable. "I have a proposition for you, Miss Johnson." Richard opened a drawer and removed an envelope. "Inside is enough cash to cover your grandmother's medical bills, your rent, and car repairs. Take it." Amara didn't move. "Why would you do this?" "I don't like owing people." It was $40 for gas. It wasn't about the money. For a moment, Richard's mask slipped, revealing something raw underneath. It was about the choice. You chose to help when you had every reason not to. Marcus shifted his weight, drawing Amara's attention. The symbol on his leather jacket was clearer now, a black diamond with something written inside. "I don't understand what's happening here," Amara said. Richard's phone buzzed. He checked it, his face hardening again. "I don't have time to explain. Marcus will escort you home. Take the envelope or don't. Your choice." He turned away, the conversation clearly over. As Marcus led her out, Amara glanced back. Richard was on the phone, his voice cold and controlled again. But for a brief moment, she'd glimpsed something else, a wound that 40 years of wealth hadn't healed. Outside, instead of the black car, Marcus gestured to his motorcycle. "Mr. Whitaker wants you to see something on the way back," he explained, offering her a helmet. "Don't worry, you'll be safe with me." As Amara hesitated, she heard engines roaring in the distance. Many engines, and they were getting closer. The thunderous rumble jerked Amara from sleep. Her first thought was earthquake, until she recognized the rhythmic pulse of motorcycle engines. Dozens of them. Sunlight barely filtered through her thin curtains. 5:47 morgens. Who would be riding motorcycles through her neighborhood before dawn? The engines cut off simultaneously, leaving an eerie silence. Amara slipped out of bed and peeked through the blinds. Her heart stopped. The entire parking lot of her apartment complex was filled with motorcycles. Gleaming machines lined up in perfect rows. Their riders stood beside them. Men and women in black leather jackets emblazoned with the same diamond symbol she'd seen on Marcus yesterday. Mrs. Diaz from apartment 4B had already come outside in her bathrobe. Phone clutched to her ear, likely calling the police. Mr. Washington from upstairs was filming everything from his balcony. The bikers weren't moving, weren't causing trouble. They simply stood at attention, facing her building. Then, as if receiving some silent command, they parted to create a path. A familiar figure walked through. Marcus. He headed straight for her building, for her apartment. Amara's phone buzzed with texts. "Girl, there's a biker gang outside. You seeing this? Tasha from next door. Stay inside and lock your door. Mr. Washington, is this about your grandmother's debt? They're breaking laws if they're debt collectors." Mrs. Diaz. The heavy knock made her jump. Through the peephole, she saw Marcus waiting patiently, his face calm. Behind him stood two others, a tall woman with intricate braids and a younger man with a neatly trimmed beard. Amara's hand hovered over her phone. 911 already dialed, but not yet sent. Her grandmother was still asleep in the back bedroom, blissfully unaware of the small army outside. Another knock, gentle but insistent. Taking a deep breath, Amara opened the door with a crack, security chains still in place. "Miss Johnson," Marcus greeted her formally. "I apologize for the early hour, but we needed to arrive before you left for your job interview." Amara blinked in surprise. She hadn't told anyone about the interview. "What's going on?" she demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. "Why are all these people here?" Marcus's expression softened slightly. "We're the Black Diamond Riders. Mr. Whitaker asked us to ensure you got to your interview today. Your car is fixed and waiting for you downstairs." "My car? But how? May we come in? Just the three of us." "The others will wait outside." Against her better judgment, Amara closed the door, removed the chain, and reopened it wider. The three bikers entered her tiny apartment, looking strangely out of place among her thrift store furniture and homemade curtains. "This is Lisa." Marcus indicated the woman, and Dion, the younger man, nodded. "We're here on behalf of the Black Diamond Foundation." "Foundation?" Amara repeated, confused. Lisa smiled, the first genuine smile Amara had seen since this whole strange adventure began. "That's right. We're not just bikers. We're a community outreach program, funded by anonymous donors to help people who deserve a second chance. One of our donors was particularly impressed by your actions yesterday," Dion added. Amara's mind raced. "Mr. Whitaker, he funds your biker charity?" Marcus exchanged glances with the others. "His involvement is complicated. Let's just say he recognizes kindness when he sees it, even if he struggles to express it himself." From her bedroom, Amara's grandmother called out, "Amara? Who's there, honey?" "Just some friends, Nana. Go back to sleep." But Dorothy Johnson had never been one to follow directions. She appeared in the hallway, her nightgown neat despite her frail frame. "Well, now," she said, taking in the leather-clad visitors without a hint of fear. "This is different. Would any of you like some coffee?" Dorothy Johnson didn't bat an eye at the three leather-clad visitors in her living room. She poured coffee with steady hands while Amara sat stunned, trying to process everything. "So you're telling me," Amara said slowly, "that you're part of some secret biker charity funded by Richard Whitaker?" Marcus sipped his coffee appreciatively. "The Black Diamond Riders started 30 years ago. We were just regular bikers back then, some with rough pasts, others just looking for family. One night, a young businessman's car broke down in a bad neighborhood. Some locals were giving him trouble. Our founder stepped in," Lisa continued. "Helped the man, fixed his car, made sure he got home safe. That man was Richard Whitaker before he became, well, who he is now." Dion leaned forward. "Years later, when our founder got sick with cancer and couldn't afford treatment, Whitaker appeared out of nowhere, paid for everything, then offered to fund our group if we'd help others the way we'd helped him." "Why the secrecy?" Amara asked. Marcus exchanged glances with his companions. "Whitaker has a reputation to maintain. The ruthless businessman, the Ice King. His board of directors wouldn't understand why he funds a biker charity." Dorothy set down her cup with a decisive clink. "Sounds to me like a man who built walls so high he can't find the door anymore." The bikers smiled at her insight. "That's exactly it, ma'am," Lisa agreed. "He helps from a distance now. Identifies people who need assistance. Usually folks who've shown unusual kindness despite their own struggles. Like you," Dion added, nodding at Amara. Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, larger than the one Whitaker had offered yesterday. "This is for you. No strings attached." Amara hesitated. "I don't understand why he's doing this. It was just $40. "It wasn't about the money," Marcus said, echoing Whitaker's words. "Something about what you did broke through to him. I haven't seen him this involved in years." Dorothy took the envelope from Marcus and opened it herself. Her eyes widened. "Amara," she whispered, "there's enough here for my treatment, and the rent, and a lot more," Marcus confirmed. "There's also a job offer at Whitaker Industries, starting next Monday." Amara shook her head. "I can't accept this. It's too much." "There's one more thing," Lisa said. "The riders outside, they'll be back tomorrow, not just to escort you to your interview, but to help with community projects around this neighborhood. Repairs, food drives, mentoring programs. Whitaker wants to invest here." Dion stood up. "We should go. The neighbors are getting restless." As they headed for the door, Marcus turned back. "Whatever you decide about the money or the job, Miss Johnson, know this. You've done something rare. You've reminded a man who forgot how to feel what it means to be human." The three bikers left as quietly as they'd arrived. Through the window, Amara watched them rejoin their group. One by one, the motorcycles roared to life and departed, leaving the neighborhood in stunned silence. Dorothy handed the envelope back to Amara. "What are you going to do, child?" Amara stared at the gift in her hands. I think I need to talk to Mr. Whitaker myself." Amara sat at their small kitchen table. The contents of the envelope spread before her. The cash alone was enough to take her breath away, $5,000 in crisp hundreds. But it was the other items that truly stunned her. A letter on Whitaker Industries' letterhead offering her a position as community liaison with a salary that made her eyes widen. Health insurance that would cover her grandmother's treatments completely. Car keys with a note saying her Honda had been not just repaired but upgraded. "This is crazy, Nana," she whispered. "People don't just do this." Dorothy examined each item carefully. Sometimes life throws miracles your way. The question is whether you trust the miracle. Amara picked up the business card paper-clipped to the job offer. Victoria Hanson, Executive Vice President. A handwritten note on the back read, "Monday, 9 a.m. Wear whatever makes you comfortable. VH. I should research this company," Amara said, grabbing her laptop. "Find out what I'm getting into." What she discovered over the next hour left her feeling increasingly uneasy. Whitaker Industries had a reputation for aggressive business tactics. They bought struggling companies, cut staff, maximized profits. The recent hospital acquisition was concerning. Reports suggested they planned to close the free clinic that served Amara's neighborhood. More troubling were the articles about Richard Whitaker himself. Cold, calculating, ruthless in negotiations. Divorced 3 times. No children, no friends, seemingly. Just business associates and rivals. The man they described didn't match someone who would fund a secret biker charity or help a stranger who'd pay for his gas. "Something doesn't add up," Amara muttered. Her grandmother looked up from the medical insurance paperwork. "People aren't simple, child. They're layers upon layers. The face they show the world isn't always their true one." Amara's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Your car's in the parking lot. Keys inside the envelope. If you accept the job, just show up Monday. If not, keep everything anyway. No strings. M. Marcus, the biker leader." Amara grabbed the keys and headed downstairs. Her old Honda sat in its usual spot, but it hardly looked the same. New paint, new tires, even the dent in the passenger door had been fixed. When she started it up, the engine purred like new. In the glove compartment, she found a folder containing the deed to her grandmother's medical debt. Marked paid in full. Tears blurred her vision. This kind of thing didn't happen in real life. It happened in movies, in fairy tales. Not to people like her, which meant there had to be a catch. Driving around the neighborhood, Amara made up her mind. She wouldn't simply accept this charity, no matter how desperately they needed it. She wouldn't be in anyone's debt, not even a billionaire's. If Richard Whitaker wanted to help her, he'd have to face her and explain why. No intermediaries, no mystery, no hiding behind his money or his bikers. Tomorrow, she would go straight to Whitaker Industries and demand answers. Whitaker Tower gleamed in the morning sun, 70 floors of glass and steel stretching toward the clouds. Amara parked her newly repaired Honda in the public garage across the street, stomach knotting with each step toward the entrance. Her yellow dress felt painfully out of place among the suits and professional attire flowing through the revolving doors. Security guards eyed her suspiciously as she approached the reception desk. "I need to see Richard Whitaker," she stated firmly. The receptionist, perfect makeup, perfect hair, didn't even look up from her computer. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but Mr. Whitaker doesn't see anyone without an appointment." Her tone made it clear this conversation was already over. Amara pulled out the business card. "I have this. From Victoria Hanson." That got the woman's attention. She examined the card, eyebrows rising slightly at the handwritten note. "Your name?" "Amara Johnson." Manicured fingers tapped at a keyboard. "You're not in the system. Look, I know this is unusual, but Mr. Whitaker sent people to my home yesterday. He offered me a job. I just need 5 minutes to speak with him." The receptionist's expression hardened. "Security," she called, gesturing to a guard nearby. "Please escort this woman out." The guard, tall, broad-shouldered, approached with a practiced, neutral expression. "Ma'am, I'll need you to come with me." "Wait." Amara stood her ground. "Call Victoria Hanson, or Marcus from the Black Diamond Riders. They'll vouch for me." Something flickered across the guard's face at the mention of the Black Diamond Riders. He hesitated. The Black Diamond Riders? He repeated quietly. Yes, Marcus is their leader. He came to my apartment yesterday with Lisa and Dion. On Mr. Whitaker's orders. The guard and receptionist exchanged glances. Wait here, the guard said, stepping away to make a call. Amara felt dozens of eyes on her. Employees passing through the lobby, other security personnel. She straightened her back, lifted her chin. She wouldn't be intimidated. The elevator doors opened, and a striking woman in her 50s emerged. Her charcoal suit probably cost more than Amara's car, even with its recent upgrades. She moved with confident authority, scanning the lobby until her gaze landed on Amara. Miss Johnson, her voice carried across the space. I'm Victoria Hanson. The receptionist's eyes widened in surprise. Victoria approached, offering her hand. You're early. We weren't expecting you until Monday. I'm not here about the job, Amara replied, shaking her hand firmly. I need to speak with Mr. Whitaker directly. A slight frown crossed Victoria's face. Richard is in meetings all day. Perhaps I can help. With all due respect, Ms. Hanson, this is between me and him. He sent bikers to my home. He paid my grandmother's medical bills. He's apparently funding community projects in my neighborhood. I deserve to know why. Victoria studied her for a long moment. You're either very brave or very foolish, showing up here like this. Probably both, Amara admitted. A ghost of a smile touched Victoria's lips. Come with me. They rode the elevator in silence to the 70th floor. When the doors opened, they revealed an entirely different world from the bustling lobby below. Hushed voices, plush carpeting, artwork that probably belonged to museums. Victoria led her through a maze of hallways to a massive set of double doors guarded by another security officer and a stern-looking assistant. She's not on the schedule. The assistant protested immediately. I'm making an exception, Victoria replied. Without waiting for a response, she knocked once on the door and pushed it open. Richard, there's someone here you need to see. Richard Whitaker stood with his back to the door, gazing out at the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. The corner office was minimalist, all clean lines and muted colors, more like an art gallery than a workspace. I said no interruptions, Victoria, he stated without turning. You'll want to meet this visitor. He turned slowly, irritation flashing across his face. When he saw Amara, he froze. For just a moment, something like vulnerability crossed his features before the mask slipped back into place. Miss Johnson, his voice betrayed nothing. This is unexpected. Victoria glanced between them. I'll leave you two to talk. The door closed with a soft click, leaving Amara alone with the billionaire. You shouldn't have come here, he said. You shouldn't have sent bikers to my apartment, she countered. The ghost of a smile touched his lips. Fair point. Amara stepped forward, placing the envelope on his desk. I can't accept this. Can't or won't. Both. It's too much. And I don't understand why you're doing it. Richard moved to a sleek coffee machine in the corner. Coffee? No, thank you. I want answers, not beverages. He poured himself a cup, taking his time. 30 years ago, I was nobody. My car broke down in a neighborhood much like yours. A man stopped to help me. The founder of what would later become the Black Diamond Riders. He didn't just fix my car. He stood between me and some local troublemakers who decided I was an easy target. Richard returned to his desk, his movements precise. I promised myself I'd repay that debt someday. When I found him years later, he was dying of cancer. Instead of money for himself, he asked me to fund his motorcycle club's community work. So this is about repaying an old debt. Amara asked, that doesn't explain why you focused on me. Richard's gaze was penetrating. When was the last time someone helped you without expecting anything in return? The question caught her off guard. I don't know. Exactly. It's rare. What you did at that gas station, giving your last money to a complete stranger, that kind of selflessness deserves recognition. It was $40, Amara insisted. Not worth all this. She gestured at the envelope. The amount is irrelevant. It's what it represented. Richard's voice grew quieter. My wife would have done the same thing you did. Before the accident, before I lost her, Caroline reminded me daily that wealth means nothing without compassion. Understanding dawned on Amara. The yellow dress. She wore yellow, didn't she? Richard looked away. She believed it was impossible to be sad while wearing yellow. The office fell silent. Outside, clouds drifted past the windows, casting shifting shadows across the room. "I don't want your charity, Mr. Whitaker," Amara finally said. "But I do have a proposal." His eyebrow raised slightly. "I am listening. Instead of giving me money, invest in my neighborhood. The free clinic your company plans to close? Keep it open. The community center that needs repairs? Fix it. The after-school programs getting cut? Fund them. And what do you get out of this arrangement? A job. A real one. Not some made-up position to ease your conscience. I know these communities. I understand their needs in ways your consultants never will." Richard studied her, his expression unreadable. "You're turning down personal gain to help others." "Again, I'm being practical. One person getting a windfall doesn't change systemic problems." For the first time, Richard Whitaker smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his face, erasing years of coldness. "The job offer stands, Miss Johnson, community liaison, but the role is real, not invented. Victoria created the position last year, but we haven't found the right person." He pushed the envelope back toward her. "The salary and benefits remain. The neighborhood investments will happen regardless of your decision." "Why should I trust you?" "You shouldn't. Not yet." His honesty surprised her. "I've spent decades building walls around myself, creating the Ice King persona. It's served me well in business, but..." He paused. "Let's just say meeting you has reminded me of promises I made long ago." Amara considered his words carefully. "I'll take the job, on one condition." "Name it." "No more secret charity. If you want to help my community, do it openly. No hiding behind biker groups or mysterious donations." Richard extended his hand. "Deal." As they shook hands, Amara couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just changed the course of not just her life, but many others as well. Amara's first week at Whitaker Industries tested everything she thought she knew about herself. The corporate world operated by rules she'd never encountered. Unspoken hierarchies, political alliances, and cutthroat ambition hidden behind professional smiles. Her small office on the 68th floor felt like a fishbowl. Glass walls exposed her to constant observation from curious employees wondering who she was and how she'd secured a position reporting directly to Victoria Hansen. The whispers followed her everywhere. "Did you hear? She has no college degree. I heard she's Richard's latest charity case. Apparently she's connected to that biker gang Whitaker funds." Amara ignored them, focusing instead on learning everything she could about the company's community investment portfolio. The truth shocked her. Whitaker Industries spent millions on charitable giving, but most projects were selected to maximize tax benefits rather than community impact. On Thursday morning, Victoria called her into a strategy meeting with the executive team. 20 faces turned to stare as she entered the conference room in her simple blue dress among their designer suits. "Ms. Johnson will present her assessment of our current community programs," Victoria announced. Amara swallowed hard, opening her laptop. She hadn't prepared a formal presentation. "Miss Johnson," Victoria Pramtiv. Taking a deep breath, Amara decided honesty was her only option. "Your community investments look impressive on paper, but they're not reaching the people who need them most." The room temperature seemed to drop. A balding executive near the head of the table scoffed audibly. "The free clinic your company plans to close serves over 2,000 patients who have nowhere else to go," Amara continued. "The after-school programs you've cut prevented gang recruitment in neighborhoods with the highest crime rates." "This is a business, not a charity," the balding man interrupted. "We answer to shareholders, not community wish list." "Actually, Mr. Peterson," a familiar voice came from the doorway. "We answer to both." Richard Whitaker entered, commanding immediate attention. He rarely attended these meetings, according to the whispers Amara had heard. Please continue, Miss Johnson. Emboldened, Amara pulled up the alternative proposal she'd been working on. What if we reallocated funds from high-visibility, low-impact projects to initiatives that actually transform communities? The ROI might take longer, but the brand loyalty and public goodwill would be substantial. For the next 20 minutes, she outlined her vision, focusing investment in 5 key neighborhoods, partnering with local leaders, including the Black Diamond Riders, and creating sustainable programs rather than one-time donations. When she finished, silence filled the room. Richard's face revealed nothing, but he nodded slightly. Victoria, work with Miss Johnson to refine this proposal. I want implementation plans by next week. As the meeting dispersed, Amara noticed the balding executive, Peterson, whispering intently to a striking woman she hadn't met yet. Victoria appeared at her side. That's Claudia Winters, our PR director. Don't mind Peterson. He's old guard, resistant to change. They don't seem happy. You just suggested redirecting their pet projects. Of course they're not happy. Victoria smiled. But you impressed Richard, and that's what matters. Later that afternoon, Amara was reviewing budget documents when a shadow fell across her desk. Claudia Winters stood there, elegant in a crimson suit that matched her lipstick. Quite the splash you're making, Miss Johnson, Claudia said, her voice honey-sweet but eyes cold. Tell me, how exactly did you and Richard meet? The rumor mill is working overtime. Amara straightened. I'm sure Mr. Whitaker would be happy to tell you himself. Oh, I doubt that. He's become quite protective of you. Claudia's smile didn't reach her eyes. Just a friendly warning. Richard Whitaker has a pattern. He finds projects, people he can save. Once they're saved, he loses interest. I'm an employee, not a project. Of course you are. Claudia's gaze swept over Amara's modest outfit. Just be careful. The fall from the 70th floor is quite long. After she left, Amara sat shaken. The executive floor suddenly felt like dangerous territory, filled with people who saw her as a threat to the status quo. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Riders meeting downtown tomorrow. Boss wants you there. At least she had allies in this strange new world she'd entered, even if they came wearing leather instead of suits. The sleek lobby of Whitaker Industries had never seen anything like it. 40 bikers in full leather gear, patches gleaming, boots echoing on the marble floor as they filed through the revolving doors in an orderly line. Their faces weren't menacing, they were mission-focused. Amara watched from the mezzanine as panic erupted below. Security guards reached for radios. Receptionists frantically dialed extensions. Executives froze mid-stride, coffee cups suspended halfway to their mouths. Marcus led the group, his calm presence somehow making the scene even more dramatic. He stopped precisely at the security checkpoint, removed his gloves, and spoke quietly to the wide-eyed guard. Amara's phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Did you authorize this? Peterson is having a coronary. Before she could respond, Claudia Winters appeared beside her, face tight with controlled fury. What is the meaning of this circus? Do you have any idea how this looks? Actually, I do. Amara straightened her shoulders. It looks like genuine community engagement. She headed for the stairs, aware of every eye following her descent. By the time she reached the lobby, a crowd had gathered. Employees peering from behind pillars, security forming a nervous perimeter. Marcus, she greeted him with a professional handshake. Right on time, the biker nodded, unfazed by the chaos around them. As promised, 40 volunteers ready for the community center renovation. A security director pushed forward. Ma'am, these people need to leave immediately. They're disrupting business operations. These people, Amara replied calmly, are partners in Whitaker Industries' new community initiative. They've taken a day off work to volunteer their time. I don't care if they're Santa's elves. They can't. They can and they will. Richard Whitaker's voice cut through the commotion. The crowd parted as he approached, impeccable in a charcoal suit. For once, his cold demeanor seemed appropriate. It froze the security team in their tracks. Mr. Whitaker, the security director stammered. We didn't know. Clearly, Richard surveyed the scene, then turned to Marcus with a respectful nod. "Thank you for bringing your team. The buses are waiting outside to transport everyone to the community center." Murmurs rippled through the gathered employees. Richard Whitaker, personally greeting a biker gang, acknowledging them as partners? Richard faced the stunned crowd. For those unaware, Whitaker Industries is launching a major community revitalization program today. The Black Diamond Riders have been vital community partners for years. I expect every member of our staff to treat them with the same respect you'd show any business associate. The lobby fell silent. In 10 years, many employees had never heard Richard speak so many words at once. He turned to Amara. "Miss Johnson will be coordinating today's activities. Any department heads interested in participating should speak with her directly." With that, he strode toward the exit, gesturing for Marcus and Amara to follow. Outside, 3 buses idled at the curb, ready to transport volunteers to the community center. "That was quite an entrance," Amara said as they walked. "Strategic," Richard replied quietly. "Better to address the rumors directly than let them fester." Marcus chuckled. Plus, the looks on their faces were priceless. For a moment, Richard's mask slipped, and he actually smiled. Indeed, they were. From the corner of her eye, Amara noticed Claudia and Peterson watching from the lobby door, heads bent in intense conversation. The look Claudia shot her was pure venom. "I think I just made some powerful enemies," Amara murmured. Richard followed her gaze. Claudia dislikes anything she can't control. And Peterson, let's just say he has his own ideas about how company resources should be allocated. Should I be worried? Just be careful. Corporate politics can be more dangerous than any street corner. As they boarded the lead bus, Amara couldn't shake the feeling that today's victory would come with consequences. But seeing the bikers mingling with the brave employees who'd volunteered, including Victoria and several younger executives, she decided some risks were worth taking. The community was about to see what happened when leather jackets and business suits worked side by side. The community center renovation became front-page news. "Bikers and business people build bridges," read the headline, accompanied by photos of leather-clad riders working alongside suited executives. Public reaction was overwhelmingly positive. Inside Whitaker Industries, the atmosphere changed. Employees who'd participated returned with stories that humanized the Black Diamond Riders. Several departments asked to join future projects. Even Richard seemed different, more engaged, occasionally stopping by Amara's office to check on progress. But as Amara's star rose, she felt the chill from Claudia and Peterson growing colder. "You've made quite the impression," Victoria noted during their weekly meeting. "The board is pleased with the publicity." "Not everyone's pleased," Amara replied. "Victoria Saith, Claudia and Peterson have been with the company 20 years. They're used to controlling the narrative. You're an unexpected variable. I'm just doing my job, and doing it well." That's what worries them. 3 weeks after the community center event, Amara arrived at work to find her office door ajar. Nothing seemed disturbed, but instinct told her someone had been through her files. That afternoon, Richard's assistant summoned her to his office. She found him standing at the window, back to the door, shoulders rigid with tension. On his desk lay an open folder. "Close the door," he said without turning. Amara complied, heart racing. "Is something wrong?" "Sit down." She took the chair across from his desk, noticing for the first time that Victoria was also present, her expression grave. Richard finally turned, his face a mask of disappointment. "Would you care to explain this?" He pushed the folder toward her. Inside were printouts of financial transfers, large sums moving from company accounts to a charity she'd never heard of. Her electronic signature appeared on each authorization. "I didn't authorize these," she said immediately. "The evidence suggests otherwise," Richard replied coldly. "These aren't mine. Someone forged my signature." Victoria leaned forward. "Amara, the transfers were made from your computer, using your credentials, during the hours you were in the building." "That's impossible." Amara flipped through the documents, mind racing. "I never even accessed these accounts." "Over $200,000, Miss Johnson." Richard's voice had returned to the icy tone he'd used when they first met. diverted to a shell charity that funnels money directly to the Black Diamond Riders. The accusation hit her like a physical blow. You think I stole money from Marcus and his group? After everything, what I think doesn't matter. The evidence is clear. Evidence can be manufactured. Amara stood up, anger replacing shock. Did Claudia bring you these files? Victoria and Richard exchanged glances. As head of internal communications, MS. Winters was obligated to report financial irregularities, Richard stated flatly. And you believed her, just like that. Amara shook her head in disbelief. After all your talk about trust and second chances, you didn't even question whether these might be fake? We're giving you a chance to explain, Victoria interjected. If there's another interpretation, the interpretation is that I'm being set up. Claudia's hated me from day one. She and Peterson have been whispering about me for weeks. Richard's expression hardened. That's a serious accusation against longtime executives. And theft is a serious accusation against me. Amara's voice rose. Have you even verified these transfers? Called the bank. Checked the security logs to see who was actually at my computer? Silence fell across the office. Richard's jaw tightened as he absorbed her words. Until we complete a full investigation, you'll be placed on administrative leave, he finally said. Security will escort you out. Amara stared at him, the betrayal cutting deeper than she'd expected. You know, for a moment I thought you'd changed. That underneath all that ice was someone who understood the value of trust. She placed her company ID on his desk. I quit. Don't bother with the investigation. If you could believe this of me, then this isn't a place I want to work. Amara, Victoria began. Save it. She turned toward the door, then paused. My grandmother always said you can tell a person's character not by how they treat you when things are good, but by whether they stand by you when things get hard. She walked out, head high, past the security guards waiting to escort her, past the curious stares of employees, past Claudia, who watched with barely concealed satisfaction. Only when she reached her car did the tears finally come. News travels fast in tight-knit communities. By evening, everyone in Amara's neighborhood knew she'd lost her fancy downtown job. Speculation ran wild. She'd been fired for speaking up too much, for not fitting in, for refusing some executives' advances. Amara told no one the real reason. The accusation of theft was too painful, the betrayal too raw. Instead, she threw herself into volunteer work. If corporate America didn't want her help, her own community still needed it. She started small, organizing a food drive at her grandmother's church, tutoring kids after school, helping elderly neighbors with errands. The work kept her hands busy while her heart healed. A week after her departure from Whitaker Industries, Marcus showed up at her door. Richard froze our funding, he said without preamble. All the community projects are on hold. Amara invited him in, guilt washing over her. Because of me? Because someone convinced him we were stealing. Marcus settled his large frame carefully on her grandmother's delicate sofa. We both know who. Claudia and Peterson. He nodded. The question is why? What threat do you pose that's worth destroying everything we built? Dorothy emerged from the kitchen with coffee. Sometimes people fear change more than failure. Your friend Mr. Whitaker was changing, and that scared them. He wasn't changing enough, Amara said bitterly. He still believed the worst when presented with a neat stack of lies. Marcus accepted the coffee with a nod of thanks. The writers want to help clear your name. We have contacts, people who could look into Claudia's background. No, Amara said firmly. If Richard doesn't trust me enough to question those documents, that's on him. Dorothy set down her cup. Pride won't rebuild the community center, child. It's not pride, Nana. It's self-respect. The conversation was interrupted by a knock. Amara opened the door to find Lisa and Dion, along with 20 other riders and a dozen neighborhood residents. What's going on? She asked, confused. Lisa grinned. Remember that community garden project we planned before everything went south? We decided to do it anyway, without Whitaker's money. The whole neighborhood's pitching in, Dion added. Tools, seeds, labor. We figured you might want to help. For the first time in days, Amara felt a genuine smile spread across her face. Let me get my shoes. Over the next week, an abandoned lot transformed into a vibrant community garden. Riders work alongside church ladies, teenagers, and elderly residents. Word spread and donations poured in. Lumber from a local hardware store, plant from a nursery, lunch for neighborhood restaurants. Amara coordinated it all, discovering that her corporate skills translated perfectly to grassroots organizing. She created schedules, assigned teams, tracked resources. Without Whitaker's millions, they made up the difference with creativity and determination. On Saturday morning, as Amara directed a group setting up raised beds, a black luxury car pulled up to the curb. The driver's door opened, and Victoria Hansen stepped out. The garden fell silent as she approached, elegant even in casual clothes. "Ms. Hansen," Amara acknowledged coolly. Victoria surveyed the garden, genuine admiration in her eyes. "You've accomplished a lot in a short time, without corporate funding or permission. Amazing how that works. May we speak privately?" Amara led her to a quiet corner near the water barrels. "The transfers were fake," Victoria said without preamble. "The money never moved. The documents were elaborate forgeries." Amara crossed her arms. "I could have told you that a week ago." "Oh wait, I did. Richard knows. He's building a case against Claudia and Peterson. It goes deeper than we thought. They've been skimming from community project for years." "Why are you telling me this?" Victoria handed her a flash drive. "Because this garden proves what I suspected all along. You care about results, not recognition. These files show everything we've uncovered. Richard wanted me to deliver them personally, along with an apology. He'd like to meet with you. I'm busy." Amara gestured to the bustling garden. He expected that response. Victoria smiled slightly. "He said to tell you he'll be at the community center tomorrow at noon. No security, no entourage. Just him, if you're willing to hear him out." After Victoria left, Marcus found Amara staring at the flash drive. "You going to meet him?" he asked. "I don't know. Should I?" Marcus watched the community working together. Bikers teaching teenagers how to build planter boxes, elderly women instructing tough-looking riders on proper seed spacing. "Sometimes the most powerful thing isn't holding a grudge," he said finally. "It's showing people a better way forward." The renovated community center stood empty at noon the following day. Amara arrived 10 minutes late deliberately, part of her hoping Richard would have given up and left. Instead, she found him alone in the main hall, sleeves rolled up, tie abandoned, examining the fresh paint on the walls. He looked different somehow, less polished, more human. He turned when she entered, and the relief on his face was unmistakable. "You came. I'm still deciding whether that was wise," Amara replied, keeping her distance. Richard nodded, accepting her caution. "Did Victoria give you the files?" "Yes. Quite the detective story. It shouldn't have required investigation. I should have trusted you from the start." His voice was low, heavy with regret. "I have no excuse except to say that trust doesn't come naturally to me." "That's not good enough." Amara's words echoed in the empty hall. "You put your faith in people who've spent years stealing from the communities you claim to care about, while questioning the one person actually trying to help." "You're right." Richard ran a hand through his hair, a strangely vulnerable gesture from someone usually so controlled. "I spent 30 years building walls around myself. The Ice King persona wasn't just for business. It became my protection against disappointment, against caring too much." "Did it work?" A bitter smile crossed his face. "Perfectly, until I met you." He walked to a table where a laptop sat open. "I didn't just come to apologize. I came to show you this." On the screen was a news article dated that morning. Whitaker Industries executives arrested for embezzlement. Photos showed Claudia and Peterson being escorted from the building by police. "They've been stealing from charity funds for years," Richard explained. "Millions diverted through fake vendors and shell companies. When you started asking questions about community investments, they panicked. The frame job was desperate and sloppy. What happens now? That depends partly on you." Richard closed the laptop. "I've established a new foundation with an independent board. 20 million initial funding, with another 50 million over 5 years. Focused entirely on community revitalization in neighborhoods like yours." He slid a folder across the table. "I'd like you to run it." Amara didn't touch the folder. "Why me?" "Because you were right about everything. About trust. About community engagement. About what real change requires." Richard's voice dropped. "And because in just 1 week, without resources or funding, you accomplished more with this garden project than my company has in years of throwing money around." A knock interrupted them. The door opened to reveal Marcus, followed by his core team and Victoria. "Sorry we're late," Marcus said, not looking sorry at all. "Traffic." Victoria took a seat, all business. "We've drafted the foundation bylaws as you requested, Richard. Independent board, transparent funding, community representation. Marcus has agreed to serve as a board member." Amara looked between them, stunned. "You've been planning this together?" "For the past 3 days," Richard confirmed. "The foundation will be separate from Whitaker Industries, but fully funded by it. No more corporate politics, no more competing agendas. And if I refuse, then we find someone else," Richard said simply. "But they won't be you." Victoria opened a tablet. "Perhaps you'd like to see the proposed projects before deciding." For the next hour, they outlined an ambitious plan. Health clinics, education centers, job training programs, affordable housing initiatives. The Black Diamond Riders would serve as community liaisons, with neighborhood councils having final approval on all projects. Amara listened, asked sharp questions, suggested improvements. Despite her lingering anger, she couldn't deny that the plan was sound. More than sound, it was exactly what these communities needed. "One condition," she finally said. "My grandmother joins the board too. She's lived in this neighborhood 60 years. She knows what people need better than any consultant." Richard nodded immediately. "Agreed. And one more thing." Amara met his gaze directly. "No more Ice King. If we do this, you're personally involved. Not just your money, you. These communities need to see that you care about more than tax write-offs." For a moment, uncertainty flickered across Richard's face. The man behind the billionaire, mask briefly visible. Then he extended his hand. "Deal." 6 months passed in a whirlwind of activity. The Whitaker Johnson Community Foundation, Dorothy had insisted on the hyphenated name, transformed from concept to reality with remarkable speed. The garden project expanded to 15 locations across the city. 2 health clinics opened their doors. The community center launched job training programs that had already placed 30 residents in stable employment. On a crisp fall morning, Amara stood on a makeshift stage in front of the newly completed education center, a state-of-the-art facility built on the site of an abandoned school. Hundreds of community members gathered for the grand opening, alongside news crews and city officials. "Who'd have thought giving away $40 would lead to all this?" her grandmother whispered beside her, resplendent in a new yellow dress Amara had bought her for the occasion. "Not me," Amara admitted. "Not in a million years." Richard approached the podium, looking more relaxed than Amara had ever seen him. The past months had changed him. Working directly with community members, listening to their stories, rolling up his sleeves for volunteer days, the Ice King had thawed considerably. 6 months ago, he began, "I thought I understood philanthropy. Write checks, get tax benefits, see your name on a building. I was wrong." A murmur ran through the crowd. Richard Whitaker admitting a mistake in public was unprecedented. Real change doesn't come from wealthy people deciding what others need. It comes from communities identifying their own challenges and leading their own solutions. He gestured to the audience. "Every person here has contributed to making this center a reality, with your ideas, your time, your commitment." He turned toward Amara and Dorothy. "I especially want to thank 2 women who taught me that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in human connection." Amara Johnson had every reason to walk away when I failed to trust her. Instead, she showed me a better path forward. Dorothy squeezed Amara's hand as Richard continued. "This education center is just the beginning. Today, I'm announcing an additional $100 million commitment to expand our work to 5 more neighborhoods over the next decade." The crowd erupted in cheers. Nearby, the Black Diamond Riders, now official foundation partners, nodded in approval. As the ceremony concluded and the crowd moved inside for tours, Amara found herself alone with Richard near the garden that had started it all. "100 million?" she asked. "That wasn't in the budget we discussed." Richard shrugged, a gesture that would have seemed impossible from the rigid man she'd first met. "I've discovered I don't need 3 homes and a private jet. Turns out, one house is plenty when you actually enjoy being there." Amara studied him, noting the changes, the lighter step, the occasional smile, the way he now looked people in the eye when they spoke. "Caroline would be proud," she said quietly. Richard's eyes softened at the mention of his late wife. "Yes, I think she would." They watched as Dorothy led a group of children through the garden, pointing out vegetables ready for harvest. "Your grandmother is remarkable," Richard observed. "At our last board meeting, she put the mayor in his place so diplomatically he thanked her afterward." Amara laughed. "She's had years of practice. You should have seen her when I was a teenager." A comfortable silence fell between them. Former enemies, now unlikely partners. "I never properly thank you," Richard said suddenly. "For what?" "For paying for my gas that day." His voice was earnest, free from its usual guardedness. "You could have just walked away. Most people would have." Amara smiled, remembering how desperate she'd felt that afternoon, how foolish giving away her last $40 had seemed. "Small kindnesses can create big ripples," she said, echoing her grandmother's wisdom. "You just never know where they'll lead." As if on cue, the thunder of motorcycle engines announced the arrival of more Black Diamond riders, coming to celebrate the day. The contrast was striking. Leather-clad bikers mingling with suited executives, neighborhood grandmothers chatting with city officials, children from the community running everywhere. All because one young woman in a yellow dress decided to help a stranger at a gas station. "I think we're just getting started," Richard said, surveying the scene with genuine contentment. Amara nodded in agreement. "The ripples are still spreading."